Bertie the bus has worked along Thomas's branch line for a very long time and is proud to be a part of the line. The engines know they can rely on Bertie and he knows he can rely on them. Bertie is an essential part of the smooth running of the line. He wouldn't want to be anywhere else, but there was another bus who ran along the line. Algy was another red bus, but he was more modern than Bertie and full of his own ideas. He was very immature and was always in trouble with the bus manager. The engines and passengers weren't very impressed with his attitude. He was originally purchased to help with the mainline bus connections, but had caused so many issues that the bus manager decided to swap Bertie's route for Algy's. Bertie didn't mind the change of scenery at first, but he did miss the branch line. However, he worked hard and was never late. The same can be said for Algy. One crisp morning, the bus manager came to speak with Bertie and Algy. "I've been hearing nothing but good things about your service on the mainline route, Bertie, so you will have a repaint this morning." "Oh, thank you, sir," beat Bertie. He wasn't repainted often, so it was always a nice surprise for him. Algy, however, was green with envy. "It's not fair. Bertie always gets special treatment, whereas I only get yelled at." The bus manager turned and pointed at Algy. "I do not play favourites, Algy. Bertie has earned his keep and his reward. Perhaps if you didn't receive so many complaints from your passengers, you'd be repainted too." The bus manager then returned back to his office, leaving a very angry Algy behind. His mood didn't improve when the painters arrived and began their work on Bertie. "I thought the point of a repaint is that you're painted a new colour. Why do you always pick red?" grumbled Algy. "I think red suits me. Don't you like your red paint?" "Absolutely not. People keep mistaking me for you," sniffed Algy. "Well, if you could be repainted, what colour would you choose?" went on Bertie. Algy thought for a moment, but he couldn't decide on a colour, so he went back to grumbling until his driver came to start work. Later, Algy was dropping off passengers for Thomas, but he was still moaning. "You know, I used to shunt trains back at the big station for the other engines. I understand exactly how you feel," said Thomas kindly. "But after I helped out with a rescue, the Fat Controller rewarded me with this branch line." Just then, the guard blew his whistle and Thomas had to go. "Goodbye, Algy. Keep your steam up. You'll get your chance soon." Little did Thomas or Algy realise he'd get his chance much sooner than expected. Along Thomas's branch line there is a siding with a set of buffers next to a signal. This siding is used to store trucks if the yards at Elsbridge are full. It is vital that the signalman set the points correctly to keep trains on the right line. Today, however, the points were set at the siding as the signalman was rather distracted with his newspaper. Thomas swerved over the points with Annie and Clarabelle. He didn't notice anything at first until he spotted the buffers. "Cinders and ashes!" cried Thomas as his driver shut off steam and applied his brakes. Thomas skidded along the track before colliding with the buffers, his front wheels leaving the rails. Thanks to Thomas's driver's quick thinking, no one had been hurt, but the passengers just had a nasty shock. The crew and guard helped the passengers off the train. Annie and Clarabelle's buffers felt rather sore. Not as sore as Thomas's. "What shall we do? What shall we do?" sang Annie and Clarabelle sadly. Just then they heard a rumble of an engine coming from the road. The guard flagged Algy down. "Are you alright, Thomas?" asked the concerned bus. "I think so. Do you think you could take my passengers to the next station?" puffed Thomas. Algy agreed to help. It was rather a tight squeeze for the passengers, but they arrived safe and sound at the station. Algy's driver then raised the alarm for Thomas and called for the replacement bus for Thomas's passengers. Another bus came in no time. The passengers thanked Algy and his driver profusely. The young bus had never received so much praise. We'll tell our friends how reliable and helpful Sodor roadways are, they called to Algy as they were driven away, which made Algy beam. The next morning, Algy awoke to see Bertie smiling at him. I heard about your rescue yesterday. I'm very impressed with you. I'm sure manager will be too, cheered the red bus happily. Do you think so? Asked Algy. Absolutely, called a voice. The two buses looked over. It was the bus manager and the fat controller. I'm very happy with you, Algy. You've done our company proud, said the manager with feeling. And if it wasn't for you, Thomas and his passengers could have been stranded for hours. I'm glad I can rely on this fine company to help with the running of my railway, added the fat controller. Algy blushed. He didn't know what to say. The manager then raised his finger. I think you've earned your original responsibility back, so you'll be back working on the main line route this afternoon, once you are repainted first. Main line? Repainted? Oh, thank you, sir, beeped Algy happily. When the painters arrived, they showed Algy all the colours he could choose from. The poor bus couldn't decide. He took so long trying to pick one that Thomas arrived with his passenger train. He stopped at the signal and whistled to Algy. Thank you for the rescue yesterday. That signalman won't be reading newspapers for quite some time. The two vehicles chuckled. Algy then looked at the tank engine all over. He then looked at the painters and smiled. I'd like to be painted blue, please, like my dear friend Thomas, as a way of thanking him for his advice. Thomas whistled happily as the painters set to work. Algy was delighted to get the red paint off. Algy is a very different bus now, not just because of his new look, but he now works on the main line route and has made good friends amongst the bigger engines. He's still full of his own ideas, as most young buses would be, but I'm happy to say that his ideas are really useful ones indeed.